This is Camaro progress. I actually got a painter. I will tell you more about that shortly. I've got to get the body kit done before I send it off for paint. So let's travel back to 3 years ago when I started this front lip project.
Oh my God, is this the Camaro I'm working on? Can't believe it, right? We're gonna get into the bodywork on this thing. I've got to make the hood fit here because it's terrible. High spot there, a little bit low there, about right there. So there's no adjustment that's gonna fix that. I'm gonna have to actually cut this thing up a little bit. I've also got to work on the spoiler. So it's a 3-piece. I'm gonna make it a 1-piece. And I'm going to add a lip to the bottom here. You can see the middle doesn't have a lip, so I can use a front splitter. Well, this old door here should work swell. I needed something that was at least 66 inches wide and nice and flat. Plywood always warps and stuff. But I'm going to jig this up basically and lay some parchment paper down and add a lip to the back side here. I've also got to join these together. And the fitment is pretty terrible. You see the huge gap there? So there's going to be a fair amount of fiberglass keeping that stuff together, which is going to make that a real rigid point, which means it's going to want to break next to it, which kind of sucks. But I'll get that sorted out. Okay, with a variety of tools, I got these scuffed up so that I can lay some Duraglass in there as an adhesive, basically. When it looks clean, clean it again. USC Duraglass, this is pretty good stuff. The second time came out a lot better. Looks like that lines up fairly decent. I'm going to wad as much as I can back in there. I got a pretty good plop. I'm going to put more in. That's going to need a fair amount of fine tuning after it's done. Zip these screws out. I'll like countersink these quite a bit and put a V-groove in here. Get some good adhesion, good bond. Okay, this is the back side. I got it all ground down. Ready to slop some fiberglass on there and give it a lip all the way across like the end caps have. Okay, here we are, ready to make a mess. I got chop strand fiberglass mat. I'm going to overlap a little bit to this other piece here. Build up a little bit more thickness where there is 0 and sort of feather it back out. Well, this here has got to be about the most professional jigging you have ever seen. So I was getting a little bit of a gap on the bottom here, but should be getting good adhesion all the way across now. These ends I'm not super happy with. I'll have to retouch them in a little bit. Okay, this is cured overnight, and it would appear there's some rigidity there, but there's multiple spots here that are moving around. But this is probably a colossal fail. Like, that's NFG, man. So, I guess I'm redoing this whole deal. Well, I guess rather than try to salvage any of this, I mean, like this part is kind of exactly what I wanted. This, a little bit of cure there, not much. That's trash. That's trash, that's trash. and then a little bit of good at the end again. I think we're just going to rip that all off, start over. Tough crowd. God damn. Well, I did that work yesterday, which was December 31st, 2021. Let's hope my bodywork this year is better. I don't know if I just didn't have enough hardener in there. That could be. I went a little bit light on hardener just so I had enough time to try and get everything wetted out through here. So maybe there just wasn't enough hardener to kick completely. I also have the heat on 60. That said it was like an 8-minute work time at 75 or something. So maybe 60, and the lack of as much hardener as they suggest was the issue, but that was definitely a debacle. So that spoiler is not my only fiberglass project I've got now. On the hood here. So a long time ago, I glassed through where the hood pins used to be on this because I was using the arrow catch latches, and I ended up with my brackets here for the arrow catch latches had a clearance issue. So I cut a clearance hole here, and then later on I thought, you dumbass, why don't you just move this piece underneath the core support instead of leaving it on top? And then I was totally fine. But I do have the old pieces. It's always a good idea to keep the pieces you cut off around until your project is totally done. So I'm gonna have to glass this back in, and then I'm also gonna do a better job of finishing this up. So this work was, I think it was 8 or 9 years ago when I first started this project, when I did a little shittier quality work, and we're gonna have to fix that up now. Okay, I've got a hack that I'm gonna try here. So I put a little 2-inch tube right here. This is where the high spot is. This is low. This is high. Sorry. This is where the spot that lines up is. This is a little bit low. This is way high. So what I'm going to try and do, I made a relief cut. I already had these clearance spots, and I was just going to glass them back in. And I thought, you know what? Before I glass it, I'm going to make a little relief cut back here and right here. Push this down. So now the whole thing sits high. You can see how much higher the end sits there. And kind of strap this down. See if I can get that to move at all. And then when I glass it back together, I'm going to, when I glass it back together, hopefully it'll stay down a little bit. It'll save me a ton of body work. All right, well, I'm curious to see how this experiment works. So I've got a lot more gap here than I do on the end, which means it's trying to pull those corners down. We'll give it some time with pressure on it, let it rest. All right, that stupid ratchet strap trick may have worked. No longer high over here. This will take a little bit of adjustment up, but that looks good. The other side is not as great. It's still a little bit high here, but it's a lot better than it was. I'm gonna let this relax for a couple days, see if it changes at all, and then revisit. All right, that spoiler on the Camaro is about the biggest fail I've ever had. So I came up with a new idea here that can't work worse, I don't think. These are 3mm fiberglass plates. What I can do is zip them down the center and make them match up, bevel them, and make them a flat piece so that the flat piece is all set for this. And once this is all set, see, I've got my basic shape that I need to run them to. And Once this is all one piece, then all I'll have to do is fiberglass the spoiler itself to this basic plate on the bottom, and I think I'll have a better chance for success. Amazon said this was fiberglass sheet, but it doesn't look like fiberglass to me. I'm going to do a little test with it, but I don't think it's going to work. Alright, let's see how it turns out.
So this time all I did was take some Duraglass and make it like an adhesive to glue these together. And that appears to have worked pretty well. See, I jam that stuff in there, hit it with a finger. That looks like it's halfway decent. And most of this is pretty good too. You see here I got like a void. I'm gonna have to grind that out and add some more in there. But for the most part, that's halfway decent. I gotta say, this had me sweating because last time it did not go so well. Okay, I sort of beveled up everything that doesn't look great here. And I'm gonna give it some more fiberglass for any of these little voids, but some of it came out really nice. Here's a project I've been putting off for a long time. Here's some cardboard mock-ups I started with forever ago. Doing some testing. I cut it with the skill saw first, which leaves a terrible edge. And then I hit it with a DA with 80 grit and then my router to give it this rounded edge. And it's not like horrible. This is horrible quality plywood. But this is sort of a test to see how everything works, and I'll probably buy like decent birch or something to actually make the splitter itself. Okay, I guess I didn't video any of this, but part of this project was making steel plates for the top of the bumper here and also for the bottom of the lip itself, so that when you bolt these together, it's sandwiched between two steel plates. See, I've got this one labeled top bumper, and then the other one is underneath. There, you can kind of see it from this angle. Bolting fiberglass to fiberglass needs something for some strength. Otherwise, it'll just pull the bolt holes right through, because there's going to be some air hitting that splitter that wants to sort of pull it down. I did the same thing for the fenders, where it has to pinch the fiberglass into the steel fender itself. I use that same kind of trick on this fiberglass back bumper. The urethane ones had like a little flange in here, and then this piece would go through on the back side and then screw in back here. I did a steel plate that was studded, a few of the little studs, and fiberglass that all right in there so that it's completely invisible. Fiberglass can be annoying to work with, but it's also like extremely versatile. So I've already got the side splitter done here and some other stuff, but this video is getting pretty long. So in the next video, I'll show what I'm doing for a rear diffuser. I got my cardboard aided design. I'm actually going to be scoring and bending plywood to make that work. See how that turns out. And I'll go into some details about making this really round side skirt. Square it off like this to match up to that side splitter nice.